Hi everybody, it's Dana Lavoie. I am in the middle of doing a 5-part blog series on great sex after 50. And it has been a really fun topic. A lot of people are really excited about it. My name is Dana Lavoie, and I'm an acupuncturist and herbalist and the founder of Menopause Basics. And I work with women, helping them have an easier menopause and helping them feel great after menopause naturally. And so I decided to do this because I was getting a lot of questions about, I'm in menopause and all of a sudden my sex life is not so great anymore. So the series spans a whole bunch of topics, but today I am super excited to have a very special guest expert on the show. So this is Jane Steckbeck. And
That's good.
This is Jane Steckbeck. Don't you love live video, right?
Yeah,
you gotta love live video.
Awesome.
Okay, so Jane is joining us to answer your questions. And Jane is so amazing that I was able to get her to come on and visit with you guys. So she is a clinical sexologist and a certified sex coach who helps clients become confident and comfortable in their sexuality. And she's amazing. She's so effective. I know she gets amazing results for her clients. And so I just want to find out a little bit more about what I just said, what that actually means.
Yes.
And then get some information that we can start to use. So as a sexologist and a certified sex coach, what do you do? If someone's out there listening thinking, well, I'm in menopause and all of a sudden my sex life's not that great. Maybe I need some help. If they made an appointment with you, what would happen at that appointment?
Okay. Well, let me back up and just give you some information about what sexology is and what sex coaches do. That's a great starting point.
Cool.
So sexology is the study of what people do sexually and then how they think and feel about it. And coaching is a discipline where we help people achieve their current goals around a particular issue. So you pair the two, and as a sexologist and sex coach, I help people resolve current issues around sexuality. And I do get a lot of clients who have issues around painful sex and menopause, and I work with those clients on any array around those particular issues. It might be around communication. It might be dealing with the condition itself. And so it just depends on what that particular client needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And how do you work with clients?
I have 3 different ways where I interface with my clients. I offer a monthly newsletter and blog post where I just give them timely issues and information.
And we will be linking below to
Perfect.
all of Jane's information. And this video is also going to appear as a blog post on my blog, not for a few weeks, but when it does, there will be even more information about Jane and links and resources. But we're definitely at least going to put all that she just mentioned in the comments below this live video.
Fantastic. So there's the newsletter and blogging. And then second, I teach classes. And my absolute favorite class is one that I just completed called Empowered Sexuality for Women. And I will be teaching that again. And it explores 7 foundations of sexual empowerment for women. And the feedback I got from the women who recently took my class has been just amazing, that the empowered sexuality tips they got have really changed their lives for the better. And then the third way I work with a client is that I do my one-on-one coaching practice, where I do an intake process, help the client figure out what her goals and needs are, and then I input steps for home assignments to help them achieve their goals.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's very comprehensive.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Jane, I know that you work with a lot of women who are in menopause or after menopause.
Yes.
What are the issues that you see that they have the most?
Oh boy, any number of issues. The biggest one is, where the heck did my libido go? It's all of a sudden I've gone from being someone who loves sex, enjoys sex, feels passionate about seeking sex, to, oh my gosh, I'd rather just read a book. So questions of libido or concerns of libido. The other huge one is vaginal dryness. Yeah. Women experiencing the situation where they go to have intercourse, and even with added lubricant, suddenly tissues feel very painful. They might experience bleeding, but it just simply doesn't feel good. And then in tandem with vaginal dryness, the third big issue is pain with intercourse. So especially if somebody goes for a while without having any penetrative sex, and they go to have intercourse, and all of a sudden it is extremely and excruciatingly painful for penetration to happen. And so they come to me feeling very puzzled. What is this?
Right.
Can I work through it? What do I do? How do I manage?
I bet we have some people going to watch this video who would love to know the answer to that question.
I have some suggestions.
Okay, cool. So, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and answer a bunch of questions that have come in for Jane. The first question that came in was, what are some ideas besides hormones for vaginal dryness?
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite suggestions for dealing with vaginal dryness is the use of 2 different products, and I'm going to show those to you. The first is a vaginal product that can be used. Let me put this up so you can see it. Yeah, from the camera. Aloe Cadabra. And I recommend that this be used both as a vaginal moisturizer and as a lubricant during intercourse. It is a very effective and gentle, wonderful, soothing moisturizer. And one great way to use this is with this product called a lube shooter. And what I recommend is that people use the lube shooter about 3 to 4 times a week at night, maybe about this much lubricant inserted into the lube shooter. And what that does is it helps the lube go high up into the vaginal canal where it can do its moisturizing. And while you sleep, you're getting moisturizing happening. The other, I guess, result I've seen with the lube shooter is that women say it actually makes them feel more feminine. Because if they don't put in too much, if they put in the right amount, then the next day, the result is like they're having just a moderate discharge, as if we did when we were younger.
Nice.
And women tell me they really like that it makes them feel sexy.
Juicy.
Juicy.
Yeah.
And it does the job of lubricating the tissues.
Yeah. Aloe vera, it's, one of my favorite moisturizers to use or lubes to use because it's so moisturizing, it's so gentle, it's nicely pH balanced. It's really a nice match for the delicate tissues, right? It provides moisture on contact, but it provides long-term moisture as well. It's nourishing, it's healing, you know.
There's another lubricant I want to recommend, well, 2 more that are along this line. This is called Blossom Organics, and it is also a wonderful natural aloe-based lubricant, and we get good results from this.
Nice.
And then also, this is more of a lubricant rather than a moisturizer, but Good Clean Love made here in Eugene, and pretty much 95% organic.
Nice.
Also a very wonderful product to help with the dryness and also with intercourse.
Yeah. So you're saying that it's not just about using a lubricant during intercourse, right? When you're feeling dry or painful, it's like moisturizing your skin. It's like applying moisturizer proactively multiple times per week.
Correct.
So that then when you go to use it, everything's feeling nice and plump and soft.
You will notice a big difference if you moisturize this way at night. The other way I recommend using these moisturizers is to dab a little bit on your fingers in the morning and to rub them around the labia, to use a pinching motion so that they get worked into the labia. And you will notice a difference. It helps tremendously so that when you do go to have intercourse, you're not having that, oh my gosh, that really hurts feeling.
Very cool. So there's a difference between moisturizers and lubricants.
Yes.
Some products serve as both and some don't.
Correct.
So the one that you're using like a few times a week or every night or every morning or 3 nights a week, that's a moisturizer.
Well, the Aloe Cadabra can be used as both.
Right.
Yes.
But some things, if it was just a lubricant, you wouldn't necessarily use it that way.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, Good Clean Love, as I mentioned, I showed the lubricant.
Right.
They do have a moisturizing product called Restore that comes with its own applicator. So if you want to, if you're in Eugene and want to support the local product, that's a good one.
Yeah. Or if you want to just support Eugene in general. We're in Eugene, Oregon. And again, if you guys are joining us live, please pop in the comments and let us know where you're joining us from. So in answer to what are some ideas besides hormones for vaginal dryness, one would be vaginal moisturizers. And then another would be a really good lubricant.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. And then the next question was just like a huge one that came in a number of times, which was, what do I do about a newly occurring low libido? And we got other questions that sounded very similar. I certainly need help with my libido, which is gone. And then I had someone else who said, I've also been a highly sexed person, and all of a sudden my libido seems to have just disappeared.
Yes, please.
Jane, tell us a little bit about libido.
About libido. Libido is absolutely, again, one of the biggest issues that I deal with in women after menopause or going through menopause. And for women post-menopause, what we have to understand is libido is an inside job. And what I mean is we have to work at cultivating it. It's not something that comes naturally because of hormone decline. So, as I said, we have to work at it. And there are multiple different ways a woman can work at it to restore her libido. And that can include reading erotica, using these products like I mentioned, the moisturizer that makes her feel as if she has natural lubrication. It can be doing new activities with her partner, which is one thing that is very much known to stimulate bonding hormones and to stoke libido. So it's really making a choice that she on her own or with her partner is going to commit to stoking that libido. There's actually this quote that I absolutely love, and I'm not going to get it completely right because I don't have it in front of me, but it goes to the effect of, some people feel like you have to be in the mood to have sex, whereas the truth is you actually have to have sex to be in the mood. So the point of that quote is sometimes we just have to go for it and be willing to get through that. Well, I'm not really in the mood, but hey, if I get started, things are going to open up and loosen up, and then I'm going to really be into it.
Right.
So, yeah. So I would say taking charge of cultivating your own libido through certain activities.
Yeah. And maybe experimenting a little bit to find out more things like that work for you.
Yes.
Like you said, it could be reading erotica, it could be watching it, it could be buying new sheets for your bed.
Absolutely.
You know, there's so many different things that can work in that capacity, and your brain is so powerful.
Yes, it is.
And so we might need to think outside the box. And maybe people I'd love it if people would type in the comments below this video, what does that for them, you know, because that might be something that changes somebody else's life.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
You know, the other aspect of that is bringing in all of our senses. I mean, it's not just focusing on genital sensation, but we can really get ourselves stimulated by evoking ourselves through listening to beautiful music, eating lovely food, touching soft surfaces, just engaging in the sensual. And that can really help open our libidos as well.
Absolutely. Our next question was, so someone says, I want to know about muscle tone in the area and the best way to strengthen it. So, yeah, what about that?
Okay. So what you're talking about is getting in there and working those muscles, and there are a number of different ways. If you're a low-tech person and you don't want to buy any products, you can do your Kegel exercises. And a lot of people kind of roll their eyes, oh, the Kegels, but they seriously work. And Kegels involve contracting and then releasing the muscles, and the way you find it is when you're going to the bathroom, and if you're in the middle of urination, then you stop. That's exactly the motion that you want, is that squeeze and then release. And you can do sets of those where you do like 3 sets of 10, a squeeze and release. And that can be sufficient for some people. Other people will do well using Kegel products. And I did bring a number, of course, to show and tell.
Great.
And if you are a low-tech person...
It's kind of like the difference between, you know, doing strength training just by, you know, moving your arms or doing a plank pose as opposed to actually using weights, using some handheld weights or some machines at the gym to get more muscle tone. And, you know, one thing that I talk about, and that's true, is that as your estrogen declines towards the end of menopause and after menopause, muscle tone in your whole body, you are going to lose some muscle, right? Your body is going to lose some muscle. So it's really important to work a little bit harder if you haven't been at maintaining muscle tone, because you can absolutely maintain it. But when you're younger, just the normal activities you do during the day are enough. And when you get older, a little bit of strength training and muscle toning is quite important. It's really good for keeping your bones strong, you know, and it's good to start right at the beginning of menopause. It's easier to keep it than to lose it and
Yes.
get it back.
Yes.
Though, don't worry if you've already lost it, don't worry.
Oh no, you can get it back. That's the heartening thing about
but
all
it's
of
about
this.
doing the exercises and just saying, I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm organized. I can commit to doing this 3 times a week and doing it on a regular basis, because the muscle tone's not going to come quite as easily, but it will come.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So these are the weights that you can use.
I'm sorry, I just put that right in front of my face. I just want to show these to you. And this is a set of weights from a company called...
No, that wasn't all one.
Those
you wouldn't use all those at the same time. Right. So
you would start with
one.
This one.
Right.
It's the largest and the lightest. And what you do is you insert this, put a little lubricant on, you insert it, and then you carry it around inside the vagina. And what you do is you squeeze those muscles to hold it in tight. And that will help tone. Now, when you get used to that one, you move up to the second size, which is a little smaller and a little heavier. And that will also enable you to tone. And when that gets easy to keep in, then you move up to the third size. And this one is heavier, and harder to keep in place. There's a fourth one with this set you can buy separately that is very small and very heavy. And carrying those inside, again, will really help tone the vagina.
Yeah.
Now, if you're someone who likes technology, you can go to a toy store like Eugene's As You Like It, which is a very sex-positive, wonderful women-owned store. And they have a number of other toys that you can purchase, again, if you like tech. The Kegel is, I'm not very good at that part, is a very wonderful product. It ties into an app, and it will give you programs. So you just insert it, and then the app does the work and makes you do the work as well. And then it gives you a tracking sheet so that you can see how well you're improving. And then the last product I wanted to show you, this is it's called the Intensity for a reason. And the Intensity it was started as a medical tool, and it is inserted into the vagina, and then the woman squeezes, and it also gives patterns, but it also inflates a little bit. So it gives her more to squeeze against. And the cool thing about Intensity, again, it was started as a medical device, but then they realized women were having extraordinary orgasms with it. And so now it has a place in both worlds.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So you're the complete home gym here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah. So don't despair if you feel like the conditioning of the vaginal muscles has decreased, because it will come back with practice.
And so this can help with intensity of orgasm, but it can also help control urination, like if you're having some leakage or incontinence.
Yes.
It's also really wonderful for your posture.
Yes.
Those are foundational posture muscles as well, your
Absolutely.
pelvic floor.
Yeah.
And I have heard, Jane, I'd love to ask you about this, that some women who have pain, pelvic floor pain, or pain with intercourse, it can happen if your muscles are weak, right? If they are lax, and that is maybe more common, but that there are also some women where the muscles are too tight.
Yes.
And they not only need to be strengthened, but they actually need to learn to relax and to do some stretching. And I have heard that if you just jump right in with the Kegels without enough stretching, and even they call it like a reverse Kegel, where you're making sure you relax in between, that you can make the tight muscles even tighter.
Right.
So is there a certain type of pain that women should look for, or a way that they can know if they have those extra tight muscles?
I'm not sure that I can answer that question.
You can keep going.
I think what's important is, if a woman has extreme pelvic pain, to either visit her gynecologist, or if you're lucky and you have somebody in your town, like we do here in Eugene, Judy Abel, who is a pelvic floor specialist and does physical therapy with women who are having pain with intercourse. I do think it's important to get checked first with a person who has the medical and technical knowledge to make sure. And what I would do with someone who has pelvic pain, as long as they're medically cleared, I work with them on helping them work with their partners on understanding what's going on, so that communication stays open and so that intimacy can still happen, even if intercourse isn't working well at the time.
Right. Yeah. And I will track down and put in the comments below. There's also some online programs now that
Yes.
pelvic floor therapists like Judy Abel, who have big local practices and they've been doing it for 10 or 20 years, have created some online resources as well in case there's not somebody handy in your local area.
Yes.
Where you can get some of this information for yourself and get some one-on-one attention even.
Right. The other thing that's available is use of what are called dilator kits.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's vagina is very, very tight and they
Mm-hmm.
cannot get penetration, dilator kits are dildos that are ranging in size from very small up to large. And a woman takes the time to first start with the smallest of the dildos
Mm-hmm.
and insert, and she just lays with it inside her
Mm-hmm.
for, up to 5 minutes a couple times a day,
Mm-hmm.
and then graduates as she feels comfortable. And
Right.
that can help diminish pelvic pain as well.
Cool. Yeah, like a
Yeah.
passive stretching.
Yes,
Where you're relaxing.
exactly.
You're not squeezing. You're
Yes.
relaxing. Yeah.
And it's also never, ever, ever forced.
Right.
I just want to emphasize that in case somebody's like, oh, I'm going to go get some dilator kits.
Right. I know.
I'm going to work through this fast. Well,
Right.
no.
Right.
Please work through it slowly. Be
Right.
gentle with yourselves.
And I think for a lot of women, they're having a little bit of dryness. It's causing a little bit of pain. They're having a little bit of urinary leakage, which, by the way, is not like necessarily normal, right? That you should expect that. So do some Kegels, and there's so many things use some moisturizers. But if your pain is persistent, if it's not responding, then definitely, it's not that you are unhelpable, right? You just might you just might need some stretching instead of some strengthening, or people who work in this field have so much to offer, and I think it's really, really hard for women to talk about it sometimes or to ask for help, and so they just deal with it,
Right.
So there are a lot of helpful therapies out there, all natural, no side effects. We're not talking necessarily surgery or even hormones.
Right.
So much you can do,
Right.
and it just might need to be customized a little bit for you.
Yeah. I want to pick up on that thread. We have so much cultural shame. When things aren't working well for us, we often do shut down, or we think, oh, it's just us, or something's really wrong with me.
Right.
And in fact, these things happen. And I'm thinking about the science of meta-emotion, that it's how we feel about what's going on is often more limiting for us than what's going on. So if we can stay in the moment of realizing that we can fix these things, we don't have to get in our heads and think, oh, there's something really bad, awful wrong with me.
Right.
I think that's really important.
For sure.
Yeah.
And there's another question that came in, which I think goes right along with what we were just talking about is, I heard jade eggs were good to use to strengthen the area. Are they good? Are they safe to use? How do you use them?
Jade eggs are pretty much a similar product as this,
Right.
but it's a heavier kind of egg-shaped thing that's inserted. And they are generally known as safe. I think it's just really a matter of preference. The jade eggs are hard, and so some women don't like them. They like the softer silicone. So I think it's really a matter of personal preference.
Yeah, cool. And the only thing I've heard that's not good about using them, like I said, is if you're hypertonic and your muscles are too tight, then using something like that and squeezing can make them tighter. So you might be like, oh my goodness, why am I having more pain? Right. So that would be like a situation where you'd need to combine strengthening with stretching and relaxation. But yeah, they're like what we showed you, but green.
And I do think that's a great point that Dan has made several times over, which is a lot of this is about relaxing. It's not necessarily about pushing through and squeezing and making it something harder than it needs to be.
Right.
The relaxation part is very, very important.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. So one question, I love this question that came in is it okay to use nut oils as a lube? Almond oil, macadamia, sesame, and pistachio are the ones they were asking about.
Okay. And I do not have information on pistachio or sesame or macadamia. And I will tell you about the oils that I do know about and what I can recommend. And I do want you to be cautious about using some of the food-based oils, and I'll tell you why. But first, one of the best alternative oils you can use is coconut oil.
I love
hands
coconut
down.
oil.
Yeah, that is my favorite lube. And where you want to use that is when you're in a relationship where you do not have to use a condom,
Right.
and you can just not worry about it, because once you pair latex with oil, you have a condom that's going to be compromised. So
Right.
never pair your oil with a latex condom.
Right.
So coconut oil, fantastic.
And it's a lube and it's a moisturizer.
Yes.
It creates long-term moisture. It creates short-term moisture. It's slippery, so it's all the good things.
Yep, it's wonderful. Coconut oil, hands down, great, especially if you don't have to burden yourself with
Right.
using condoms.
Right.
The other oil that is really excellent, both as a moisturizer and a lubricant, is sweet almond oil. So that's also a very lovely one.
Cool.
There's flax oil, can also be acceptable, although flax can cause irritation in some people. So if you want to try flaxseed oil, by all means try it, but make sure that you use a small amount to start with, so that if you have a reaction, you're going to be not overwhelmed with that.
Right. Nuts in general are things people can be allergic to.
Yes.
You know, if you're allergic to coconut oil, don't use coconut oil.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Because
Always a good
nuts
rule of
are a
thumb.
more common allergen than a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very good rule of thumb. And let me see so macadamia, sesame, pistachio. Yeah, don't know about those. And my guess is, the general thinking on nut oils is that if it's safe to eat, it's going to be safe to put on vaginal tissues as long as you're not allergic. But I would, again, be cautious. There's one oil I want you to not use on your vaginal tissues, and that is olive oil. And according to Paul Joannidis in the Guide to Getting It On, olive oil can actually stay in the vagina, collect around the cervix, and get rancid. And so you get a horrible smell and icky, awful. So don't use olive oil, even though it's wonderful to eat.
Right, okay. But the other oils don't do that.
Correct.
Yeah, cool. I know jojoba oil is good too.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that comes from a nut.
I don't either. That's a great
Does
question.
anybody know if you know if jojoba oil comes from a nut?
The one thing
Let
I
us
do
know.
want to say about nut oils, please, please, please buy organic.
Mm-hmm.
Do not put oils on your vaginal tissues if it's not organic, because what you're getting is all the industrial herbicides, pesticides, and everything else.
Yes,
So,
and
please.
those pesticides are estrogen disruptors.
Yes.
They are going to really mess up what your body is trying to do naturally with estrogen and natural lubrication and plumpness. They're particularly bad to put on your sensitive, very, very thin and absorbent vaginal tissues.
Yes.
And just because you see a product, a vaginal moisturizer that says, it has coconut oil in it, that doesn't mean that it's good. You have to look at the other ingredients. If it's not organic, if it has artificial fragrances and nasty preservatives, then say, no, thank you.
Yes. That brings me back to our discussion about some of the moisturizers and lubricants I was talking about. And I showed you what are, I think, 3 of the best players on the market: the Aloe Cadabra, Blossom Organics, Good Clean Love. Those are all water-based lubricants. I want you to avoid products like KY Jelly, Astroglide, I can't even think of some of the others, and anything in it that has like heating elements or numbing elements. Those products are not good for vaginal tissues. The KY jellies, the Astroglides, you will see ingredients in those like methylparaben, which is also an endocrine disruptor. Glycerin, which is a sugar, which gives women yeast infections, and propylene glycol, which is a skin irritant. And that's just the top 3. There are also many other chemicals in lubes that are just, they shouldn't be on our bodies.
Yeah. One of the articles I did in this series was all about how to treat vaginal dryness topically. And I talked about the different categories of lube, and I talk about glycerin and how not only is it a sugar, it's highly processed and contains residual chemicals. And because of its osmolarity, it pulls moisture from the surrounding tissues, and those cells then die and are exfoliated, making your tissues overall thinner and weaker.
Yes.
So we don't like that. It sounds so friendly,
Yeah, we don't.
but we don't like it.
No, we don't want that.
Go with aloe vera instead.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the osmolality is a huge factor.
Yeah,
with
osmolality.
That's what
Okay,
Yeah.
osmolality.
There's a great article on Aloe Cadabra's website on osmolality.
Oh, cool.
So, highly recommend that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yes. So glycerin, you don't hear us talking about it here because it's actually with the olive oil. You can put it on the list of things to avoid, ingredients to avoid.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. And we had, is coconut oil good enough to use as a lube? We talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
2 thumbs up.
Organic. Put a little jar by your bed. You don't have to take the whole bucket in. I have a Costco-sized coconut oil bucket, so then I have a little jar at the bed.
Right, exactly, which you can refill.
Right.
So we did get a question, can diet and herbs give you back your libido and lushness? And Jane, I would love to hear what you have to say about this. I also have one of the articles in this series that I'm doing is all about how to get your libido back from the perspective of a tonic herbalist. So it's all about diet, lifestyle, supplements, and herbs and things you can do to actually improve your libido. And then I have one on how to increase your estrogen levels naturally, even post-menopause, with diet and lifestyle and supplements. So there is some other information on this series on that for sure, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about that as well.
My information will be a little more general. I'm going to defer to your expertise on that, but I do want to say I read that question and I thought, oh gosh, diet is foundational to having a good libido, especially over the age of 50. If you're eating the standard American diet, your libido is going to die and it's going to be hard to get back. I highly recommend a diet full of fresh fruits and vegetables, as many as you're willing to eat in a day. Legumes, beans, lentils, things like that are very, very supportive for our systems.
They tend to have plant estrogens in them.
Yes. And so huge believer in having just an amazing diet after the age of 50, well, even before, but after it becomes even more important. There definitely are herbs. And again, I don't have the expertise in those. I defer to Dana on that. However, Chinese herbs can be very beneficial to bringing back that lushness. At the time I took Chinese herbs, I don't know Chinese, so I can't tell you the names of everything that was in the package, but they can be highly beneficial as well.
For sure. It's like a beloved topic of Chinese herbalists and tonic herbalists in particular. There's thousands of years of tradition on improving libido. It's, they love that. So they're big on that. And I just wanted to say, someone wrote in their question who said, I have not had sex since this menopause started, so I don't know what I need to know yet. And I hope that you're getting lots of ideas, lots of information, and thinking that, just because it's been a while, that maybe menopause does not mean the end of your sex life, because it definitely does not have to be the case. Oh, this was a really great question. I'm 62 years of age, and after enjoying a great sex life, I have lost all sensitivity in my nipples and clitoris. My doctor took me off bioidenticals because of another medical issue. Is there any help?
Okay, that can be a tough one. I mean, bioidenticals can do everything that our own hormones did, and going off of them can be challenging for women. I would say for the clitoral stimulation, it might be beneficial to buy a more powerful vibrator, to incorporate play with greater areas around the labia, because those can be just tremendous areas of erogenous zones for women that are underplayed with. So it would be extending play throughout the greater regions of the labia and using a more powerful vibrator. With nipple sensitivity going down, that is something that is very real in women, that nipple sensitivity can completely change after menopause. And whether or not that's going to come back, I don't know.
Yeah. And then there are women who don't have that problem, right? Who postmenopausal still have good sensitivity. And, your hormones after menopause are lower than they were before menopause. And they go back to about the level that you were when you were 10 or 11 years old. So before you got your first period. That's sort of like normal, healthy, right? But in a lot of women, if they're not on a good diet, if their energy is really depleted, if they're super stressed, the hormones don't go back to where they were when they were 10 or 11. They go way below that. They go like almost to zero, undetectable. And that little bit of estrogen that you can naturally and safely produce and have in your body, after menopause even, I think that little bit between 0 and 10 and 11 years old is what makes a lot of the difference between the women who still have that sort of like, juiciness and sensation and some energy in their sexuality. And so there's a lot you can do with diet and herbs and lifestyle to bring that back and to just kind of put yourself in the most likelihood of getting that back, even if you've
Mhm.
lost it. You got to work at it from the inside out,
Right.
as well as do whatever you can creatively from the outside in
Yeah.
to do what you can right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would want to know more about why the person went off of bioidentical hormones, and if there's the ability to use even a topical estrogen
Right.
in the vagina, because that could help tremendously to evoke that clitoris and have the sensation come back.
Yeah. Do you have any feelings about, I know you can get prescription topical estrogen creams from your doctor,
Yes.
which can be very effective.
Yes.
But there are also some sort of natural alternatives that have come out recently. Are you familiar with those? With like the Christiane Northrup Amata creams, which have a plant phytoestrogen in them, which are supposed to be kind of like a natural version of the estrogen cream you get from your doctor, or the Julva DHEA cream.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with those?
I have researched Amata, and I read that it is, and this was on the Amata site.
And just so you know, Amata is a vaginal moisturizer. It's a cream that was developed by Dr. Christiane Northrup, who's a wonderful women's health expert.
She's amazing.
She is amazing. I love her. And it is a cream that has a high concentration of phytoestrogens from a specific plant, naturally occurring in the plant. So she's put them in this cream, and you can use it as a moisturizer. It's not only like rubbing on hand cream. The estrogen, the plant estrogen in the creams are actually supposed to stimulate the estrogen receptors,
right,
and create more estrogen to plump and create lubrication. So
I would say that if a person doesn't have any issues with estrogens, if they've never had a breast cancer issue or anything like that, it would be worth looking at. If somebody has had a breast cancer issue, I would certainly run it through a healthcare provider first, because the amount of phytoestrogen, or the intensity in Amata, is very strong. It's something like 300 to 500 times what you find in soy. So it's definitely not something to take if you haven't checked with a healthcare provider first. But the reviews that I've read about Amata, people are raving about the effects. Although it definitely has an estrogenic effect, some people report getting their menstrual cycles back. So if that's not something you want, then it probably wouldn't be a product you would be interested in.
Yeah. So it rejuvenates the hormones locally.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely puts hormones. And then there's another one called Julva by Dr. Ann Kabeka, which has DHEA in it, which is not from a natural plant source, but is like a hormone precursor that our bodies usually know what to do with.
Right.
It's
And again,
supposed to be very similar, though that one has glycerin in it.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
And what about sorbitol? Because the Amata has sorbitol in it. Does that act like a sugar?
You know, I didn't know it had sorbitol in it, and that would be not something I would like to see as an ingredient. I would wonder why the heck would they put sorbitol.
I saw both of those, and I thought, well, why did you guys do that? Because all the other ingredients are mostly really good. So, sometimes you need to compromise a little to get something that has a stronger effect. Yeah.
But I would say, again, if either of those interest you, as long as you haven't had any hormone-based issues, then certainly check them out, because if you can get relief, wow, why not?
Exactly.
Why not?
Go for it. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I totally believe in both of those doctors. They're amazing. They're totally pro women's health. They're amazing. So
no, Christiane Northrup is a real hellraiser. I get a lot of inspiration from her.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And that's the thing, is there's a lot more resources available for menopausal women right now and postmenopausal women than there were 20 years ago. I mean, it's fantastic. But our mothers probably weren't using these things. They weren't available to them. We might not know about them. Right? So we want you to know about them. So I had someone who wrote in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as a sex coach, Jane.
Okay.
So someone who is already about 8 years into her perimenopausal journey, and she's been having a terrible time with her sex life, because she is having more problems with genital herpes. And so are there any solutions to that?
Boy, I don't know.
Okay.
That's one I don't have awareness on. The one thing that does come to mind is that if this is something that keeps happening, meditation might be a way to just get a calming effect going, and might be helpful. Yeah.
Definitely. It has to do with the effectiveness of your immune system on some level. And so that's one thing to look at. Meditation is great for that. And there's also some really focused therapies you can do with herbs and things like that, and some acupuncture treatments that can decrease the frequency of breakouts pretty significantly by getting your own immune system to keep the infection under better control. So that would be one avenue to explore. When in menopause, it's like you're hotter, you're drier, right? So anything fiery is closer to the surface, right? So it's about getting it farther away from the surface, under better control. So it takes a lot for a breakout to happen. Whereas during menopause, it's like, oh, let's do that again. You know, it's just like, nothing's holding me back now. Okay. And I another question about painful intercourse. This was a little bit of a, more advanced question. Someone who has already tried hormone cream and vaginal inserts for about 4 months with no improvement in painful intercourse. Do you have any suggestions?
That would be one where I would ask the person to see a pelvic floor specialist or their healthcare provider to see if there is anything structurally going on. I think that would be very, very important.
Right.
And it could be that the person just needs to step up their game a little bit in terms of using a vibrating dilator kit. There's also something I wanted to bring called the Femani wand, which is a vibrating dildo, and it has different head sizes so that a person can go up as her vagina opens a little more, but she inserts the dildo and it vibrates, and there's no intent to have orgasm, but that motion brings in more blood flow and stimulation to those tissues, and that can be helpful. So it might be, again, stepping up the game, going to a healthcare provider, and I think that would also be one where I would try using the aloe cadabra.
I was going to say,
it's weird. The aloe cadabra with the loop shooter, that might be extremely helpful to fill in the gap with the hormone cream.
Yeah, so the hormone creams is one type of topical, but a moisturizer is a different kind of topical, and you can use both.
Right.
You know, and then you can use some of these other things that Jane was talking about too, to just kind of get the area more used to being stretched, to being used, right? And so, and more moisturized on the surface, but also with the lube shooter. So, and you might also want to look after watching this, or also in my video on topicals, I go through a lot of ingredients to avoid specifically. So we told you more like what ingredients to use, but I tell you a little bit there, like when you're reading the label, you know. So you might want to look at your vaginal inserts, and you might want to look at your hormone cream, because if they are glycerin based, right? So they could be actually creating dryness, sucking moisture out of the surrounding tissues and creating long-term dryness. They could be, they could be actually kind of not helping you as much as some other versions of those products might help. So getting a little bit educated and being creative and persistent and trying different things. And like Jane said, maybe you have to put a little time in with some of these, products that can help to stimulate the area, to stretch it, to relax it, to strengthen it, to get the tone back.
Right.
That just the hormone cream might not be enough.
We tend to want quick results in our country. I mean, we kind of have that feeling that if there's something wrong, we want a quick solution. And some of these situations may take a little time and patience to resolve. So try different things, don't give up, and certainly keep at it. Yeah.
Definitely. Was there anything else, Jane, that you wanted to, that didn't come up in a question that you wanted us all to know?
Well, I wanted to say there are 3 things. These are my 3 takeaways for women over 50. And the first thing is, own your sexuality with confidence. We, as a culture, are not friendly about women and sex over 50. And if you look outside, culturally speaking, you may get messaging that's really negative about sex. But I want to encourage you to step in and own being a hot, wonderful, juicy, sexual woman. I think women over 50 are amazing. And I love the confidence I see in women, and we can own that around our sexuality for the first time in our lives. The second thing I want to encourage you to do, and I did mention this, is work to cultivate your own libido. Again, people come to me often saying, well, what can I do? How can I and oftentimes they're looking for solutions outside themselves. And we really need to take this on, that if we're going to be hot, sexy women, we need to think of ourselves that way. And we need to do things to be sexual every day, whether it's masturbation, reading erotica, viewing erotica that feels good for us to watch is super, super important. And the last suggestion I'll say is use it or lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Have sex regularly. Have that penetration a couple days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And keep things juicy and moving, and things will tend to work out well for us.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Jane, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing all these amazing show and tell goodies. That was so fun. And yeah, again, just to give everyone an idea of how many wonderful resources there are right now available that there didn't used to be. So if those appeared while you weren't paying attention, like they just appeared on the market, they're there.
Yeah,
it's really cool. Yeah. Cool. All right. Please feel free to go ahead and put your questions in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear if this was helpful, if it was useful, if it was interesting. I'm Dana Lavoie. This is Jane Steckbeck. So I am an acupuncturist and herbalist. I'm the founder of Menopause Basics, and I help women to have an easier menopause naturally and also to feel great after menopause. You can find me at danalavoielac.com. Lots of other free videos there on the blog, including the whole rest of this series on great sex after 50. So I started with a video on all the different causes of vaginal dryness and how to treat the ones that did not have anything to do with estrogen. And then the second video, because low estrogen is the biggest cause of vaginal dryness. So the second video is all about how you can boost estrogen naturally during and after menopause. And then there was one all about topical treatments. So we went from internal treatments, herbs and supplements, diet, lifestyle, to topical treatments. And then we had Jade. And then the last one is all about cultivating libido from the Chinese medicine and tonic herbalist's perspective. I'm very excited to share that with you guys because it's a little different, I think, from what you hear.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that
so it's going to be a fun one. So anyway, and this is Jane Steckbeck joining me. She is here in Eugene, Oregon with me. She has a practice here. She teaches classes. She does coaching. She sees clients one-on-one and does some group classes too.
Yes.
Yeah, so lots of different, and her also website and her blog and her newsletter are going to have, amazing tips coming out on a regular basis and probably be another way that you could get in touch with her. So glad you're coming here to learn on your journey. And, I hope that everyone will share some of what they have learned and what's working for them, because everyone else who's watching and listening and in the comments and in my private Facebook group, Menopause Basics, which is kind of a fun place to talk about this because it is private. It's free, but it's private. It's women only. And so that's a really nice place to have conversations like this too. So a lot of resources available. And we're going to post below Jane's website, her blog, all that. If you want to know more about what a certified sex coach or a clinical sexologist is, you can find out. It could be something that could be useful for you that you didn't even know was what you needed. Right? Probably a lot of women have that need and they have no idea. It's like there's someone they can call to get help with that. Like they didn't think there was.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for watching, you guys. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.